Hello everyone, this is Ashwin Deshpande. I am presenting my research highlight paper on detection and mitigating subjective bias in NLP. Feel free to ask any questions in Piazza later. I will try to answer those questions as best as I can. And yeah, let's start. So, subjective biases are basically biases that are introduced by people when in natural language text, mainly over online platforms such as social media or news platforms, etc. So you could expect that whatever natural language text in its nature being natural language uh, is written by some person, and each and every person has a perspective of their own, and each of those perspectives come with their biases. So places like Wikipedia, you expect that they have just information so that you learn what is required. Detecting bias is not as easy, because sometimes we may say explicitly that we like something, so we may say uh, we liked a movie, so it was, we can say, a fantastic movie, but then that those are very small, like the percentage of biases that are found in natural language text is very small. But more implicit biases, such as if we say that in the sentence, he seems to think that he won. Now you it's not that easy to uh, detect, because seems to think, as we have highlighted here, there are no negative or positive connotation to that. But the fact that we frame this sentence as seems to think, so seems to think makes it so that the person who has written this is casting doubt. So these kind of biases are majority in presence for natural language text. If we say, after many tries she became a mother, and you cannot expect that the she can be replaced with the he, because that has to be a she. So if you're doing a co-reference resolution, who is the she, it should always be associated with the mother. So further mitigating the, like, basically removing subjective bias not only requires that a bias sentence is just neutralized, but the that sentence also has to make sense. In this direction, we will review 5 papers. Uh, the beginning in Regasins et al. The paper named Linguistic Models for Analyzing and Detecting Biased Language. So here, first we will introduce some very simple analysis of biases, and then we'll go and see what kind of data and algorithms that have been employed to detect and remove bias. So first of all, the kinds of bias that are defined is epistemological bias. These are the bias that basically are very subtle, and basically it's something that we all agree on, but we don't explicitly say these things. Uh, in this sentence, when you say he realized that the oppression of African American people was more of a result of economic exploitation than anything innately racist. So in this sentence, we are debating the result of oppression was of which kind, but not exactly whether African American people, were oppressed or not. Framing bias are the ones that are more explicit. For example, we may use a sentence like, the newly elected governor has a history of campaigns for gay rights and pro-life causes. Now, the writer writes pro-life, but this is not a neutral way of saying anti-abortion causes, and this would be only a one-sided view of a social debate. To mitigate this, the method used here is the use of Wikipedia edit history. So what happens in Wikipedia, because of their uh, impartiality rule, they have to keep the articles free of any biases. So any biased text that is present is edited as and when it is found, and each of these edits are saved with timestamp and the reason for why this has changed. So the policy for in Wikipedia is the neutral point of view policy. Also in this paper test how good humans are at detecting bias. Note that we are saying detecting because we may be better capable of changing, neutralizing it. They employed Amazon Mechanical Turk, and out of which only 58% of them got it right. So that was the accuracy, whereas the performance of this model was 57 thereabouts. So we can see that it's quite hard for humans also to detect. It's moreover, it would be quite helpful if a system is created such that it just detects the bias and just tags that it is biased so that a human can further correct it. Moreover, coming to more recent work in this, we may also add another kind of bias, that is demographic bias. Demographic bias are the ones that are based on social identities such as gender, race, religion, language, region, all those things. And we will focus on gender and some of these in the following slides. A wiki neutrality corpus is created. This corpus is basically a pair of sentences. One of them is input, the other is output. The input is biased, the output is not. So, uh, and the input and output may have um, multiple changes, and may not exactly be the same sentence. It's just it is de-biased, but it just has similar meaning. Moving on, we more in the list of demographic bias that we just discussed, we focus on gender, and we see that gender bias is very prevalent, and this happens mainly for two reasons. One is allocation bias. Allocation bias is basically saying that a disproportionate number of examples and yeah, so a number of examples are more for male entities than for female entities. And then representation bias occurs when the because of the distributional hypotheses, uh, uh, there are some biases that are implicit in the way sentences are formed. There are several methods. First of all, during training, what we can do is do gender swapping. So during gender swapping, so consider this one's patients. So doctor couldn't see the patient; he was out of station. So now we expect that when we say he, we are talking about the doctor, and at the same time, when we say doctor couldn't see the patient, she was out of station, we again have to say that she is referring to the doctor. But due to the allocation bias that we just spoke of, it is possible that he and doctor are very closely related and she and patient are more closely related. Okay, so in debiasing, as we just spoke of data augmentation, given these kind of sentence pair, we expect that the system performs equivalently. In addition, sometimes we not may not like it that gender is augmented in this manner. So as we spoke before, mm, she may give a birth has to be a she. So what we do is we add the pronoun female. She may give a birth, so that it does not, like when we train that, we specify that okay, this time we're not supposed to change the gender. All right, so now we talk about gender bias and contextualized word embeddings. Uh, when we talk about word embeddings, we have learned about word to vec and glove embeddings. Now, other kinds of contextual word embeddings are Elmo and one word-based word embeddings. In this particular paper, I focused on Elmo word vectors, and the Elmo method uses 1 billion word benchmark corpus, and we see that this corpus is heavily disproportionate in presenting in representing female entities. Uh, on counting the number of pronouns, the male pronouns are 5.3 million, and comparison 1.6 female pronouns are present. So you can see that male entities are higher. So gender subspace is a part of word vectors that carry data, gender data or any bias data. So it's important that this data is removed from the ones that are non-gender, such that occupation word embeddings need not have this uh, gender subspace. So those are removed, and furthermore, for we see that man and a woman, this is we are just considering that it is just a, a binary class, which may not be true, because in reality there might be a number of genders, religions, race, etc. So it's important that this subspace is defined for multi-class social biases. Also, we can see that the implication of such an application is huge. Yeah, so this method can be extremely useful.